Welcome back to the Us versus Them channel. I'm your host, Vince, and we're going to break down the next fight for the UFC Fight Night this weekend, UFC Rio. The fight we're breaking down is Jafel Filho versus Clayton Carpenter. Right now, Filho is sitting at a plus 100 underdog, and Carpenter is at a minus 128 favorite. Before we get into the breakdown, if I can just have you guys, remind you guys to like the video and subscribe to the channel. We really appreciate that. That's the kind of feedback that we're looking for. We got 46. We're on our way to 50. Our first milestone of the channel. So it'd be sick for you guys to jump on board now before the channel starts to take off a little bit. So yeah, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. I appreciate you guys. Thanks. When I was reviewing some of Filho's past UFC fights, first off, disclosure, wasn't able to watch the Nascimento fight. I wasn't able to watch the, which one was it? The Muhammad Mokaev fight. Sometimes we can't watch fights that just happened not too long ago, and that's just kind of the nature of the beast, and that fucking sucks. But they took down the Muhammad Mokaev fight too, because obviously the UFC has some fucking bullshit drama with Mokaev, and now we can't watch his shit, even though he could be in the UFC. I don't get it. So I was only able to watch 2 of his 4 fights, and it was the 2 that he won. So the 2 that he lost, I wasn't able to watch. But when I was breaking down the striking for those fights, one thing I noticed is he tends to throw really, really heavy, which obviously if you connect, that's a really good thing. But if you're throwing heavy and swinging at air, it's going to tire you out. Another thing it's going to do is it's going to get you out of position, And, in this fight, he really wants to minimize that. But he also has said before that, to the broadcast team before the fights, that he's the hardest hitting 125 pounder in the division. I feel like he's trying to live up to that after saying that, and I don't think he is, Like I said, he does throw with bad intentions, so when he lands, he's doing some damage for sure, but especially his leg kicks. He's got really nice leg kicks. But like I said, I don't really, fighting a fighter like Clayton Carpenter, you want to stay in good position all the time, otherwise he's going to make you pay with a double leg. On the other side, you have Clayton Carpenter. When his striking, he's a Golden Glove boxer, so he has some of the traditional boxing skills. I mean, he has a really nice head movement for one. He works a really nice jab, so that's always really nice to see. But outside of his boxing, he also has some decent kicks too, especially his leg kicks. You'll see him invest in those leg kicks early in the fight, and I fully expect him to do the same thing this weekend. But another thing that I really like about him in his fighting, and his striking at least, is his speed. He's got pretty fast hands, and I think he's definitely going to have a speed advantage this weekend against Filho. Like I said already, the fights that I got to watch for Filho were fights that he won, so he's going to look, good. And I definitely did note that he has pretty good top pressure when he does get on top. He won both those fights by submission, and like I said, when he gets on top, he has a tendency to stay on top. At least the caliber of guys that he's fighting, the 2 victories that he was able to secure in the UFC. He's, like I said, really good top pressure, transitions to the bag nicely when he has opportunities to do so, and his jiu-jitsu in general is pretty fucking good. He's got 10 submissions on his record, 7 of which come by way of rear naked choke. So he is just really fucking good at getting on people's back and finding that submission. Obviously, if the majority of your wins are coming by way of that, those back takes are pretty nice. Clayton Carpenter also has really good top pressure. In fact, I think his top pressure is probably better than Filho's. He has traditional wrestling style pressure, so he uses a lot of shoulder pressure and just downward pressure, using his legs to drive into people. And, he's got a really, really big frame already for the division. He looks like he carries himself really well. He's powerful. He's twitchy. He's strong. And when he's has all those characteristics and he's doing the right thing of downward pressure, I could just imagine for some of those guys, it feels like the fucking world's on them. When he gets on top, he has a tendency to stay on top too as well. When I was breaking down his grappling, at least, in the Juan Camilo Rondero's fight, early in that fight, he gave up a takedown, and I didn't really like the effort in defending that takedown. One thing about Carpenter is he has a really active guard. If he does find himself on his back, he utilizes submissions to create sweeps. Whether it's a triangle or an armbar or a transition to an omoplata, and get his head up and create a scramble and then finish on top. We did see that in the Rondero's fight, for instance. But like I was saying before, he was taken down a little bit too easy in the Ronderos fight, and I made a note of that. But I also made a note that in the Tagir Ulanbekov fight, that he did a much better job of defending takedowns. Granted, Ulanbekov was able to secure takedowns. I think he got 2 during that fight, and both of them were by body lock. And that's one thing, getting the body lock, elevating, taking him off your feet, and taking him, to the ground. That could be a really hard takedown to stop. But I do like to see that he has made a lot of improvements in at least defending the double leg takedown. So I wasn't able to watch Filho's fight against Nascimento, but I watched a couple videos that kind of gave me reviews, did my own little research, and what I've gathered from the fight is that he came out and had a pretty dominant round 1 and started to fade in rounds 2 and 3. And that starts to make me question because, I remember his fight against Muhammad Mokaev. He fought really well that fight, gave Mokaev a really good fight. I think he had him in a knee bar that fight and almost broke Mokaev's leg in half. It was fucking crazy. But, he had a really good showing in that fight. In the Nascimento fight, it really wasn't as good of a showing from my research that I've done at least. Seeing a guy that goes and dominates round 1 and then starts to fade away round 2 and round 3 and give those rounds away, it makes me wonder if he's able to be a good nail as well when he's in the octagon. To be good in the UFC, you have to be a good hammer and you have to be a good nail. I know I've said that a million times. I'm going to keep saying it, Filho is one of those guys where it makes me wonder, if it starts to not go his way, does he start to kind of mentally check himself out of the fight? For my official prediction, I'm going to go with Clayton Carpenter on this one. I think he's just the more well-rounded fighter, to be honest with you. He's going to carry a speed advantage on the feet. He's going to carry a striking advantage in the sense of, I think he's going to find more success in the striking and be able to land more without getting touched. I do believe that he probably has the better takedowns between the two of them. And, the only way that I really see Filho having success is if he gets on top. And if you don't have the takedowns to do so, there's already that big question mark there. And even if he does get on top, I just wonder if he's going to be able to control Clayton Carpenter on the ground. Because we have seen in his fights that he is kind of a fucking pain in the ass to control on the ground. Like I said, really, really active guard. And he's looking for submissions off bottom, whether it's to secure a submission, get the fight over with, or like I said, to create that scramble and get that sweep that he's looking for. So I see a lot of paths to victory for Clayton Carpenter. I see very few paths to victory for Filho. So for my official prediction, I'm going to go with Carpenter on this one. And I think he's going to get it done by submission. I think eventually as we go later in the fights, his pace is pretty relentless. And Filho has shown that he can slow down a little bit and start to give rounds away. So that prop is sitting at a plus 500 right now, which is a fucking sick prop. I love that. But another good value prop is Carpenter by decision. And let me see, that one's sitting at a plus 180 right now. So there are good opportunities in this fight to make money. And I'm certain that this fight is going to find its way on at least one parlay this weekend. That's all I got for you wild sons of bitches on this one. Stop by for the next one where we're breaking down Vitor Petrino versus Thomas Peterson. That's going to be a sick fight for as long as it lasts. Love seeing Vitor Petrino jump up to the heavyweight division, but I'm getting ahead of myself. I don't want to break down that fight right now. I just want to get you guys out of here. So I'm the fuck out of here. See ya.